by plane or boat from where we live. There's no roads going.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there might have been a club there. I've only been in Kiwanis 25 years, and I've only been knowledgeable about where we're located for the last 10. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether, I think there was a Juno club, if I recall the history.
Really? Yeah.
Dave, how long have you been a Kiwanian?
Oh, about 11 years now, something like that.
All right. Yeah.
Well, John and a few years ago. We
All
were
right.
working on a project over at the park, Sam Johnson Park, putting in the new playground there, and he happened to be volunteering, and we talked, and he came to our next meeting, so that's how he joined.
That's how it works. See us out there working and want to get involved. That's the best part.
He's been a big asset to this club.
Yeah. Rachel, how about you?
I've been with Kiwanis, I'm going to say it's been a couple of years now. I think it's coming on 3 years, actually.
And how did you get involved?
I got involved through, I work for Umpqua Bank, and we had one of our staff members, hi Cindy, one of our staff members was very involved with Kiwanis over the years, and she ended up moving out of state, and I felt that it just kind of left this huge gap in the community. She did really amazing things, was involved in so many things. So I reached out to her and got a list of all the groups she was involved with, and I started visiting all of them, and Kiwanis really just kind of struck a chord with me, and so here I am. I couldn't be the same kind of presence she was in the community, but Kiwanis I felt was my home. So
that's great. That's great. Hi, Cindy. I've been getting acquainted.
How are you guys?
We're good. How are you today?
Good, Rachel. Hi, Mike. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi, Dave.
Hi. Hey, Alan. Lonnie.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
So Rachel, you were talking about the governor for next year. He's just joined us, Lonnie Johnson, down in
Hi, Lonnie. Welcome.
How's everybody?
Good. How are you?
Good. You having a warm day out there in Redmond?
Oh, yes.
We're having a cool day. I had to put on a jacket.
It's supposed to be 10 degrees cooler today, but it's still warm. Dave, it looks like that horse is stiff.
Yeah.
That's a good background.
Yeah, I took him out of the field one day. I was working on an irrigation project with this guy who had been in a new pump, and he just put his head over the rail, and we got to know each other, and I thought I'd take a picture.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I kept waiting for him to move when we were talking, and then I realized, oh, that's a background, Melanie.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Carl, it's good to see you.
Hello there.
I see we have an Interclub.
Yep. We do.
Hi, Carl.
Hi, Donna. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, Steve.
I just want to let you guys know George Chesley passed away a couple days ago.
Oh, no.
Had he been ill?
Yeah, he had cancer.
Mm.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Roland.
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
6 of us, yeah. Seven. Glad you're here, Donna. We don't have to make a report to you. You got us. Donna's our
working on it.
secretary of the club.
Oh, Darlene, too.
Hi, Darlene. Welcome.
Thank you.
We can skip our August Cascadia meeting because we're all here.
We're all here already. Well, not all of us, but close, huh?
Well, the important people are, let's put it that way.
Yeah, but it sounds like Cindy has something fun planned, so.
Yes.
don't wanna
Yes,
miss
I
that.
do.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Cindy, who do you have with you today?
These are my best little buddies. These are my grandkids. This is Stevie and Wyatt.
Hi, Stevie.
Hello,
Hi,
welcome.
Wyatt.
Do you guys see Uncle Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Gonna see you Friday.
Yep, he's coming Friday. Hi, Dar.
Hi, Cindy.
There's an interclub from the Cascadia.
Oh,
I think about 6 of them.
Oh, okay. So, Carl, you thinking that we should network with the other
Bonnie, I like your background.
the way stuff is growing?
See, this is called Zoom. Have you guys seen a Zoom meeting? That's how you do it for school, right?
No, we do WebEx.
WebEx. Oh, there's Dave. He's here too.
Uh-oh. Here's trouble.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Jackie Sue, how do you do?
There she is. Hi, Sue.
There's Jackie Sue. Boy, we got a lot of Cascadia members here.
I think we're
We
up to
do.
8 now, right?
Yeah.
We got more than that.
No, with Dave, now we're at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
I see we're at 2 minutes after, so we should probably get started pretty soon. Josh, do we still have Jack speaking today?
Yeah, I think so. He should
Okay.
be joining us any moment. I had sent him, I know Dave had mailed out the Zoom invite, I want to say Monday and then again yesterday. So I forwarded him both.
Okay.
And I told him to use the most current one, and then hopefully he gets that email and isn't trying to join the old link. But
Okay.
yeah.
Welcome, Jackie and Michelle. Good to see you.
Well, Rachel,
All right,
do
well,
you
maybe
want
we
to do
should,
the
What's that?
Pledge of Allegiance?
yeah, let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully he signs on while we're working through our, all of our other things. So go ahead and load the flag for us. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roland, would you be willing to do prayer for us today?
I'll give that a try.
Okay, thank you.
Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather. We appreciate friends joining in that we don't get to see often, if at all. And we hope to gain wisdom and friendship throughout our gathering today. We continue to think of others that are not as fortunate as we, and we'll keep them in mind. So thank you for our blessings. Amen.
Thank you. All right, so as you can see, we have lots of guests joining us today from the Cascadia group. Some faces I recognize, some I don't, so I will make some introductions because it's not every day we get such heavy hitters on our conference call. We've got current Governor Melanie Bozak with us. Hi, Melanie. All right, we've got incoming Governor Lonnie Johnson. Hi, Lonnie. And then we also have incoming Lieutenant Governor, Mr. Steve Emhoff. But just a big welcome to everybody. We are still waiting on our speaker. Today we're going to have Representative Jack Zika. He's going to be talking to us about his mission and special sessions, basically, that they've been holding because of the pandemic, and then also reactions to police brutality. So it should be a really interesting conversation today. Does anybody have any announcements to make?
I have an announcement. Randy Marvin had been seeing a cardiologist for more than a year because of an aortic aneurysm. The surgeon decided it was finally time for surgery. He had that surgery yesterday and came through with flying colors and should be home this afternoon.
That's good to hear.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you for the update. Any other announcements? We've got the Redmond Food Project going on. Just a quick reminder that August 8th is when you're going to want to have your food bags filled and ready to go. We'll be making arrangements later to either pick those up or meet somewhere to make sure we get those all collected and turned in. When you bring in your food on August 8th, you will swap out for a new empty bag that you get to fill. Any questions on that, just let Earl or myself know. All right, I completely dropped the ball. I do not have a joke of the day, and I know you guys are completely heartbroken about that. All right, so it looks like our speaker is still not here. Alan, do you want to give us an update on the program that you guys have been working on?
Sure, and I guess the program would be childcare. Is that right?
Yes.
So Kiwanis, to the other club members from the other club, Redmond Kiwanis has basically adopted a childcare center, the Redmond Learning Center. We have moved them from an old decrepit building to a new facility out at the Opportunity Foundation campus. It's great, but now that COVID has hit, the rules are you can't have 10 kids in a class. You can't have the classes mix, even though when they come and go in the morning and at the end of the day, they all pile in the same cars. And that there are new rules out about wearing masks, but mostly it's 5 and older. It's a real challenging situation to have fewer kids, still have to run the same programs. So childcare has basically gotten $200 a month more expensive. It's a challenge. The state is giving grants, so that's helpful. And we're going to keep going as long as we can to make sure that happens. We're also in Redmond, and thanks to the Redmond Kiwanis Club for supporting a challenge to create a shared services model of how we support childcare. Those things that everybody needs, whether it's bookkeeping, hiring, payroll, HR, we're looking at how we can create a central place where those things can happen and support more childcare. We're hoping that through this model, if someone would like to say, you know, I could have childcare in my house and make a little money off of it and maybe have 10 kids, maybe all 3-year-olds. Here is this group who will help me get it started and support it through. I think that's a way that we'll be able to expand childcare and to also reduce the cost of childcare or pay higher wages to the employees who basically make minimum wage and have no benefits.
Okay.
So as we look at this, it's an exciting day. I've been working on childcare for 2 decades almost, and this is the most exciting time and the best time when things have come together through need of the business side and industry, and also the state willing to step up and do what needs to be done to help support childcare. It's something we all need. It's something our children need, and it's something our community needs. So I'm excited. John, do you have any questions or anything to add to that? John Bruce, I was thinking maybe you could add something.
Actually, no, those that are just our guests, we worked all summer, especially Alan did, to remodel an approximately 6,000 square foot building, which he says is correctly very nicely done now. We're looking around for ways, as he just said, to get other people involved within the community. It's a huge project.
Thank you, guys. All right, so since we're still waiting on our speaker, let's circle back around and get to know the Cascadia group a little bit better. Melanie, from what I understand, you guys are an internet club, is that right?
That's correct. And while I appreciate the acknowledgement of the position, Rachel, I'm going to ask that our president, Cindy Crother, introduce the rest of us and talk about the club.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mel. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to point out a couple more things. All of us pretty much on this call are charter members of Cascadia. Linda Walker is a past lieutenant governor. Darlene is a past lieutenant governor, and she's from Canada. Donna is a past lieutenant governor. She's from Canada. And Jackie Sue is a past governor. So you do have a lot of past, and governors and whatever on the screen here with you. So if you guys have any questions, now's an awesome time to do that.
Lots of type A's, right?
What's that?
Lots of type A's, right?
Yeah. Cascadia was chartered in 2008, Steve?
Correct.
Yeah, we were chartered in 2008. At that time, there was only 2 internet clubs in the Kiwanis world. I think there's quite a few more now, but we've been meeting in Zoom just like this even before the pandemic. So I'm here to tell you that meeting like this does work, even though it seems different. We have people from all over the United States. We have Alan Penn, who is a past international president as a member who lives in Ohio. We have Johnny Johnson, who is a past governor, Steve, the same year as you.
Johnny was a governor and also a KI trustee.
And a KI trustee, yeah. So yeah, we've got a lot of hotheads in our group, but we have fun.
We chartered with 53 members.
Yeah. So, and just so you know, Sisters was our supporting club when we were chartered. So, yeah. My dogs are going to bark, so I'm going to put it on mute. Someone else can talk.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, so is there anybody else from Cascadia that we didn't get an introduction for? I'm looking through the faces. I think we got everybody. Welcome, Jack. It's nice to have you today.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you.
We are ready for you to dive right in if you're ready to start speaking.
Yeah, sure. Sorry I was late. Apparently I had an old number. There was just 3 of us on there. We were having fun. So, but thanks for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Jack Zika. I'm the state representative for House District 53, which is Redmond, parts of Bend, like the Four Corners and Sun River, and then all the way up into the Cascade Mountains. So I like to say I have one of the prettiest districts in Oregon. So I think we live in a great place. So I wanted to give you a rundown on the last special session. We dealt with some policy issues on police, housing, and some other issues. I'll just try to go through it as quick as possible. The last update I gave ran long, and I could tell on people's faces when they start to turn and they've heard me talk for too long. So I'll try to keep it brief. So we had the police reform bills, which we had quite a few. We had 4201, which turned into a reform committee. So going forward, we'll be looking at ways that we can improve law enforcement through that committee. And I was able to do a ride along with our Redmond Police Department. And no system is perfect, and they look forward to some of the outcomes that come out of that. And I was able to get to talk to them about some of these other bills, like the chokehold ban, the report and intervene, the rubber bullets, the tear gas. All of those bills were part of the special session. And we got to a place, we have a couple former police chiefs in the Republican caucus and at the state assembly, and they were part of the group. So we got to a place that we could all agree on these bills, and most of these passed unanimously, including me. I voted yes on all of these bills. So the chokehold would be considered a lethal use of force, similar to if they were to draw their gun. My concern on that bill in the beginning was that if a police officer were to use the chokehold, they would be considered a criminal. And I live right next to John Tuck. And if someone were to walk in there with a weapon and a police officer went right behind him and disarmed him with the chokehold, I would consider him a hero. I think most people would. The way it was originally written, that he would be a criminal then. The way it is now, that's not the case. So I think we got to a good place there. We have a report and intervene bill, which is 4205, which is if your partner witnesses you doing an action that is inappropriate, that they can intervene and they would report. Of course, I voted yes on that one. Discipline records. We had a bill back in the long session, 2019, that if a teacher had been disciplined, that their record wouldn't just go away, that another school, if they tried to get hired in another school district, they'd be able to retrieve those records. This is very similar now with police officers. So if they if they've been disciplined and they go to a different district, that district can now pull those reports where they couldn't before. And of course, we voted yes on that one. The tear gas bill, they got into a place where when I was at the ride along with the Redmond PD, they said that they use tear gas in tactical situations similar to like a hostage situation. So if we were to ban tear gas, they wouldn't have that tool to go in and get into somebody's house and potentially save some people without using their weapons, because that's the next option. And so we got to a place where they have to warn, when protesters turn into a riot, they have to warn the people that are involved that tear gas is coming. And in Portland recently, they had to, well, they've been doing it more nightly now, but they had to do the tear gas, and they warned the protesters 34 times before they shot it out. They have to warn them twice, but it's in statute. So they have to be warned before they use the tear gas, and use of rubber bullets is in the same element as tear gas. And then we have the arbitration. So when the police officer does get disciplined, they have a plan put in place. Redmond, Bend, Sun River, they all have their own plan, but now they have a third party arbitration come in and look at the plan and make sure that the discipline fits the crime or the whatever they did. So those were our police bills, and I felt pretty confident with all of those. Like I said, I voted yes. We can get through some of these other ones here. We had a CAT tax fix, which is the corporate activities tax. Actually helped sponsor this bill. And what it did, a couple things with our dairies. Think of Eberhard's. If you had a collective selling into a group, they didn't get taxed the same as if you were a solo dairy. So this kind of put everybody on the same level. So we don't have competing dairies, whether they're big or small, to be able to at the same level and get taxed at the same level. It also uses those funds come in instead of a dump at the end where they would get all of the funds at the end of the year. It actually gets deposited in with the school districts as the money comes in. So I voted no on the original corporate activities tax because I didn't like the tax structure. But if we have the tax put in place, I sure want to make sure that it gets to the schools when the money comes in and not at the end of the year when it might be too late. So I voted yes, and I sponsored that one. We also had a meat processing. So if our small cattle farmers were not being treated the same with USDA processing for meat processing. So now the Department of Agriculture will have a state processing for our coastal and some of our cattle farmers out here. So we'll be able to process that meat and get it to the grocery store and sell it at retail in a timely fashion without it spoiling, because we were having some issues with that. We had a couple housing bills. So the foreclosures and evictions were 4204 and 4213. On the foreclosures, I voted no on both of those, by the way. But on the foreclosure one, I don't find it legal that the state can tell a federally guided program, because most of our home loans go to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to be managed, and you can't tell them how they're going to do their business. So I don't know if that seems, if I'm making my point across. So the only people this really affects are our credit unions, and they do what's called a portfolio loan, and they lend on people that typically wouldn't qualify for loans, and they take a chance on them. And those are the loans that are done in-house at the state level. So that's who this bill actually would affect. And if you have a certain amount of defaults, then you're automatically tripped and you can't lend anymore. And you would have the liquidity for that market would go away. So then we don't have these, like typically first-time home buyers wouldn't be able to get a home loan. So I didn't like the way they had the bill written, so I voted no on that one. The eviction bill, I voted no on because in the foreclosure bill, they gave the lenders the same courtesy of notifying them that you have a loss of income. You have to prove it, and then you have to come up with a payment plan. But for landlords, they didn't have any of that included. You don't have to prove that you had COVID. You don't have to prove that you lose your job. You don't have to pay your rent till September 30th, and then you have 6 months to make it up. And that puts a lot of landlords and homeowners, typically mom and pops that have retirement income on the line here, in a hard spot. So I wanted at least the same consideration they gave the big banks to landlords, and they weren't willing to do that. So I didn't like the bill. Of course, I voted no on these two, but they passed. So there is a foreclosure moratorium and an eviction moratorium right now. We had a cell phone tax, which I voted no on because I cannot agree to a cell phone tax in the time of a pandemic. There's just no way. What it is the 6% increase on all of our cell phone bills. And of course it passed, but I just didn't agree with it. I don't think the timing's right. And it's going for money to broadband for our schools, which is great. I agree with that. And I think that's a noble cause, but we already gave through the emergency board a couple months prior, $20 million to do a program like this, but they still haven't come up with a plan. They haven't spent any of the money. They haven't done any of their due diligence for this. So why give them more money when they can't even spend the first $20 million? And now we all have a 6% tax on our cell phones coming up, which I didn't agree with. Now we have what's the debt-based license suspension. So if you don't pay a debt, the court was able to suspend your license. And this was a bill back in the 2020 session, the short session, that I have actually voted no on. And I thought that they should still suspend. But since then, I've been thinking about it and had a few conversations, and the courts still have ways to garnish wages and things of that nature. But if you lose your license, then how would you be able to get yourself back and forth to work? So I ended up voting yes on that bill because I did see the logic in that, and you should be able to keep your license and you should be able to go back to work and continue that and make your payments that way. If you lost your license, you would lose your job. Just didn't seem to make sense. Then we have the Indian Child Welfare Act, which was House Bill 4214, which just codifies national law into state law, which with our national recognized tribes, making sure that the funds got where they were supposed to get to. So of course that was an easy yes vote. We have another bill that I sponsored, which is our out-of-state placement for foster kids. We have an Oregon Promise program that gives a college tuition or help with that through Oregon Promise. And for our kids that were getting placed out of state, they were not receiving those funds. So this was a way that we could try to get them to make sure that they get their highest education possible. We have another bill that I sponsored was the hospital support for our vulnerable Oregonians. So if you read the newspapers during the pandemic, we had children, we had mental illness patients that were going in and not able to make decisions on their own. And since there was a pandemic, they weren't allowing that support person to occupy or to come in there in the hospital with them. And we felt that that was wrong. And so we had this bill that we passed, and now they can have somebody in there to help them make those decisions with their illness. Another bill that I sponsored was the forestry bill. And I don't know if you've heard the grand deal that happened between the forestry, the timber industry, and the advocacy groups. But we were a part of that conversation and was able to sponsor that bill and get it passed. And we'll have more notifications on aerial sprays, and it expands the forest stream buffer for pesticides. So both sides agreed to this, and both sides had ballot measures that were on each side that they were going to be competing, and they agreed to take those off of the ballot. And we have this to go forward, and hopefully that'll get us through the next few years without any additional legislation. Last bill, sorry, I'm trying to go through these quick, was the omnibus bill. So the omnibus bill was 4212, and that dealt with public meetings, making sure city councils, county commissions were able to do their work and not have an open meeting in a pandemic, that they could do it online like we're doing right now, but also have a public forum where you could submit testimony or even do testimony online like we are. So that was part of it. The stimulus garnish stimulus garnish protection. So when you got your $1,200 check, that wouldn't be able to be garnished by a creditor. Judicial time requirements, that was probably the most controversial part about that bill. And all it did was really extend your court date. So you have a right to have a speedy trial up to 180 days, and a judge can now extend it out 60 more days because of not being able to hold court like we do typically now with the pandemic. We got in Bend, if you heard about the homeless shelter, the transit center was going to get $2 million. So this will allow that to happen with the emergency and veteran shelters was part of the bill. Remote notary, so being able to do a notary of the public in a similar video situation. Enterprise zones that were extended, they were due to expire June 30th, will now be extended to December 31st. IDA, your individual development account used for school, down payment on a house, anything like that, you can withdraw some of that money to help you with the tough times during this pandemic. So I thought that was appropriate. They have a COVID collection data piece to it and physician assistant flexibility. So now a physician assistant will be able to help you online and not have to go in through a contract process. And I voted yes on that bill. So that was the omnibus bill. Since then, we've heard that there's another special session coming. We have a lot of important things to address, specifically liability for our schools. We have a lot of our small school districts are worried about how are they going to reopen, especially if somebody tries to sue them. There is a $700,000 cap that you can sue on a school district. But even that would be a huge hit on some of our smaller school districts, especially in the pandemic. I never thought it would be necessary because, I have two small children and they've had the flu and they've had the norovirus before, and I've never thought about suing a school, but apparently there's some opportunists out there. And so we need to come up with some liability protection for our schools and potentially some of our small businesses. And we didn't do any budget items. So they're doing some work right now as we speak in the Ways and Means Committee.
Jack, did you freeze? Oh, we lost Jack.
Welcome to rural internet.
Everybody there. Sorry about that. Internet went in and out, and I'm using the cell phone as a hotspot. So thank goodness for technology, right? So anyway, we're going to come up with, in August 1st, a budget special session, because we're not sure if Congress was going to do another stimulus or not. I think that's what Governor Brown is waiting on, and the Speaker of House, they're waiting on to see if Congress passes another stimulus package to help out states with their back funding of their budgets. If not, we have a lot of work to do. We've got $2.7 billion shortfall in the budget, so we have to make some hard cuts. And that has been what we're kind of talking about. We've already told everybody that we're going to try to keep schools at the $9 billion budget mark. So that is a priority, but we'll have to see where we can take cuts from. From what I saw in the Ways Committee, a lot of the cuts are coming from positions that were outstanding that they haven't hired yet. Some of those are DHS, so that's a difficult cut, but they were wanting to add a lot more caseworkers, but that it probably won't happen now with the budget cuts. So there's a lot of things that we're going to take a look at. I would love, one more thing. I'm on the governor's Healthy Early Learners Council for our preschools and our daycare centers, and we're trying to do a lot of work on some of the guidelines. We're just coming to the guideline part now, and it looks like they're going to take centers from 20 students to possibly 30. But then if somebody has tested positive for COVID, that they might have to shut down for 14 days. So there is an option to put your input if you would like to. I can always send the link to somebody here and see if you would like to add your input to some of these daycare centers, preschools. So I'd love to take any questions now. Sorry. I think Lonnie has a
On this budget work, I was at a fair board meeting last night, and they're looking to cut $1 million out of the money that the state gives to the Oregon Fairs Association to keep the fairs afloat around the state.
Yes.
Have you heard anything about that? What's your stance on it?
I just saw in the Ways and Means kind of just summary, and that was on there. I want to keep our fairs in business. I want to keep them going. So I don't know if I agree with that. I have to look into it more, but I'd love to hear more of your input.
Well, I'm in Josephine County, and the fair is probably one of the largest social events. Of course, this year it's not, but we're still holding a virtual fair where 4-H and FFA are still going to gain from it, like that. And,
yeah, I saw that. We had Deschutes County and Crook County are having some of those, but they're still having the rodeo, but it's more of a virtual setting. So,
right. Yeah. And just $1 million, even though we're only taking a part of that, is pretty bad. We're already $200,000 in the hole because of the pandemic, and another $35,000-40,000 from the state being cut would really hurt.
Yeah, so we're looking into some of these the gap fill for budgets with the CARES Act money. So we got $1.6 billion for CARES Act, and we've only spent a portion of it. So we're trying to figure out ways and guidance that we could try to help out with budgets. We looked in like the Boys and Girls program. They're not able to fundraise, and so we're trying to help them with some funds. I can look into see if we can try to maybe use some of that for the fairs. Family to Family Network, same thing. They're getting cut $1.7 million, and that's going to ruin it. They're going to close. So there's programs like this that we need to keep and we need to prop up. So thank you for letting me know.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jack, this is Alan Unger. First of all, thank you for what you're doing. Going to Salem is not fun, and I applaud you for putting your time in there. You know, this pandemic is a one-time thing we've never seen before, and every budget across the state is probably being challenged. I know with child care centers, the one I'm involved in, it costs $250 more per child to take care of them right now. What are your thoughts about using bonding to create a large fund that we could offset some of these challenges that everybody's having across the state, and then allow us to pay that off over 20 or 30 years so that it's something that we can handle and we can get by through this one time or whatever challenge we have today?
Sorry, I had to put my ear close. I had a plane flying over. So a lot of our bonding projects, especially lottery bonding projects, are getting canceled. So we're having a tough time because the lottery sales are down. You think about like the High Desert Museum, we had to get special funding for them. COCC might have to check and see if they're on the line, the irrigation piping. So there's a lot of these programs that we need to try to prop up with general funds. Now, if we can bond, yes, I think we should do something. And then also there's still money from the CARES Act funds that we can do. North Carolina did hazard pay for child care workers to incentivize them to come back, $700 a month. I think we can do something like that to help out with their pay. So yes, I would definitely be supportive of something if we can try to prop up.